Welcome back to another episode of our drift car build-off presented by Spec Clutch and Koyorad.
Today's going to be a greasy, grimy one where we pull out this S54 motor and get it on the ground.
We left off in our last episode by almost having this engine ready to remove. And we did a lot of complaining about, it's hard to get this out, all this stuff. But today's a different day where we show you the easiest engine removal, just like that. Wow, BMW, you have made it so easy for us. And well, the reality of it is we had all this amazing footage of Dave and I extracting this motor, and I lost the card that had all that footage. I don't know where it went. I went home and it was gone. So sadly, that footage is no more. But we're just gonna today cover off a couple of things about removing this motor and whatnot. So we dropped everything through the subframe. So the engine, transmission, everything was bolted onto the subframe. We loosened the bolts and it came down relatively easy, wasn't a big deal. And for the most part, I would say this is probably one of the easier engine removals we've done in a long time. Obviously, we removed the whole front end. I read online that you actually don't have to do that, so it makes life a lot easier, but you really don't. What you could do is just leave everything, disconnect all the lines from the rad, the oil cooler, etc., and it could just drop right out. This engine did not look this clean when we pulled it out. We actually spent quite a bit of time power washing it and cleaning up the transmission and the subframe and all that, which we'll show you in a moment. So as you can see, the other small little hiccup that we ran into, which was really one minor one, was the engine mount actually broke right off. And I read online, it's a common problem for these to shear if they're old and kind of broken. These can actually break while they're on the car, and then you get a weird rattle or the motor moves a lot. So we're gonna be replacing that. So now let's move on to the transmission and show you where we're at with that. DP, this is one of the few times that you can take a cheap shot at me, a pot shot for what I did.
I do that all the time anyway, Pete,
I know, but this is like really bad. So
I
if you want
feel bad about this one because I know how much it hurts you inside that you lost.
It does. All that amazing footage.
We even had an opener with Moose helping me remove the motor where we took cheap shots at you while you were off on your ski vacation, and that's all gone. But anyway, life goes on, and we do have a ton of great GoPro footage that we'll show you of that whole process later. But before we do that, we'll just give you a quick post-mortem of what we've got here on the floor. And I should mention one of the advantages of dropping the whole powertrain on the subframe is that you end up with your suspension off and your brakes off. And that's all stuff we're gonna replace or modify anyway. So there was some advantages to doing it this way. First of all, the shocks, these old Sachs shocks, which are original to the car, are very tired. In fact, the rear springs are broken, although the front ones aren't broken. But these are going to go in the bin or maybe on Craigslist, depending on how.
I don't know if anybody will buy that, but
pretty old and tired. We're also going to take the opportunity to upgrade a lot of the bushings. We've got PowerFlex ones, I believe they are, Pete.
Yeah.
So we'll be upgrading a bunch of bushings on the car, including some on the front end. These front lower control arms are a bit of a challenge. From what I understand, to change out the ball joints, you actually have to replace the whole arm. But we're thinking these have been replaced already because they look to be in pretty good condition. So I think the front control arms are going to stay OE for the time being. The wheel bearings seem good. The front subframe was covered in the most goo, grease.
Yeah, people have been watching this video series. They saw how gunky it really was, right?
It was super gunky, and it's much cleaner now that we've given it a big cleanup, which you'll see shortly. The tie rods are going to get replaced because you can see they're very rusty and they're going to be completely seized up. So we'll replace those. Maybe at that point we'll think about adding ones that give the car more angle, although from what I understand these cars have quite a bit of steering angle already, so I'm not sure we're going to go to angle mods quite yet on this car. The brakes were also in pretty bad shape. These things are completely rusted out. We actually had to drill them out to get them off the hubs, which is a bit of a job. Yeah, there's that little Allen key or a bolt that's always stripped because people over tighten it. Driver, that wouldn't work, so we had to drill them out, which was, I mean, it wasn't a
again, great footage, but all gone.
The sparks were flying. Pete's hair was blowing in the wind. It was all very dramatic, but it's gone, people, it's gone. And then the clutch, or the transmission, I should say. This was one of the more interesting discoveries that we made when we pulled the transmission off, is the clutch fork actually pivots on a little plastic ball here that's prone to breaking off. And sure enough, ours was broken off. I don't know what we did with that little ball, but in the previous episode, we started to correspond with Ben from Hack Engineering in the UK. They make a lot of cool parts for this motor, for this transmission, to fix little problems like this, including, I think, an aluminum or steel version of that pivot. So you'll see us making that upgrade in a future episode. So this all kind of worked out for the best somehow. It's weird how that goes.
It's like all the BMW guys know the common problems.
Yeah.
And they reached out to us, so thank you for all that.
17-year-old car now,
Yeah.
Peter, so I guess guys have had some time to figure it out. The release bearing,
Oh yeah.
completely baffed. So we'll have a new one going in with the spec clutch kit. We'll be using their 3 Plus kit again, same kit we used in the 350Z. So we'll show you all that in the next episode. But the clutch on this car was done.
And when I bought this car, the owner said, hey, there's issues with the clutch. So sure enough, he was spot on with
He
that.
was, yeah. He was probably
the pivot pin was
experiencing the
broken,
pivot thing,
yeah.
But
And I mean the clutch too.
disc is right down to the wood here. You can see there's just a shadow of a groove left on this side, and this side is completely worn down. So this thing was definitely ready for the bin. So all good stuff. Oh, by the way, we'll also be getting rid of the dual mass flywheel. Spec Clutch provides a lighter aluminum one that will save us some rotating mass, and I think give us better feel too. I hate the way dual mass flywheels feel. They just kind of numb and isolate the whole feel of clutch engagement, so it'll be nice to get rid of that. Okay, PT, I think that covers the bulk of it, so maybe it's time to cut to the GoPro footage and show them some actual action. Hope you guys enjoyed that time-lapse bonanza. There was a lot of work in there that was compressed into a very small amount of time, but that was a lengthy process. I've never cleaned a motor that was this dirty before, and it was a lot of work. There was a lot of SDP engine degreaser, and our buddy Theo gave us a bunch of the super clean bottles that we were squirting on there and scrubbing it, and it turned out great though. It is way, way cleaner, and the good news is this engine's actually in really good shape, at least cosmetically. We didn't find like any broken connectors on the harness. Everything is really aged quite well, maybe because it was covered in all that grease and grime, it kind of protected it, but it's kind of cool seeing the header design. Obviously with M motors, they're trying to make some power, so you've got these really nice, tubular primaries, and fortunately they've integrated the cats, which would make it kind of difficult to, I guess if you wanted to go to a true long tube setup, you'd have to go to separate cats further down the line, but we're not trying to make more power with this car, are we, PT?
No, it's just all about reliability.
Yeah.
I actually looked into headers, and there are several options out there, but nothing that makes significant power. I think the factory got them. I mean, the M division is the M division for a reason, right? So I think
Yeah.
they got it right.
And like you said, we don't need to make more power
No,
with this car.
we just want this car to run right, which is what we're going to be addressing next, right?
Yeah. So I think other than the fact that we have now a really nice clean engine that's going to go into a dirty engine bay, I think maybe we have to think about giving that thing a clean.
As DP mentioned, for the engine and transmission, we used SDP engine cleaner and some Castrol stuff, but this time around, I've got an original BMW product. The guys over at Bud's BMW in Oakville are actually working with us in terms of supplying a lot of the engine parts. So I've got a lot of that stuff we're gonna show you in a future episode. We're gonna need that for the rebuild on the motor, but they also gave me this engine cleaner. So we're gonna test it out on our engine bay and see how it goes. So I'm gonna just try to get all of the grimy areas here. I don't wanna get too many of the connectors and whatnot, but we're gonna hose this down, and then from here, we're gonna use our power washer and make this engine bay look almost as good as new.
In this episode of Speed Academy, we fix our broken power washer.
The fix for everything is just to take it apart sometimes. I think our power switch was, I don't know, it wasn't opening or switching over properly. Anyways, we do now have power, so let the washing begin here. Whew. Wow, that BMW engine cleaner
Does
got
work
a
nice.
sweet number on that side. Holy smokes, look at that. I feel like we gotta clean this whole area up now. Look at all that grime, DP.
That is it.
Wow.
Engine bay is looking a lot better.
Of course, for the final step, we are going to air clean a lot of the small little connectors and whatnot, just to make sure no water gets into it and bites us in the butt afterwards. So, let's commence here.
Guess we're calling that a wrap on this episode of Detailing Academy, where everything is shiny and clean. Gotta say, it's like being in an operating room in the engine bay here. Feels good to get this high mileage M3 looking good again. But next episode, we're gonna get back to business by dropping the oil pan and having a look at those rod bearings, because as everyone knows with these engines, they have issues down there. So we're gonna have a close look at that. And by the way, when we drained the oil from this motor, part of the footage that Peter lost, we took a sample of it to send off to Blackstone Labs. So they're gonna send us back an analysis of the oil. It should give us a bit of information about the condition of the engine, more or less. We're not really too sure what we'll learn, but that's why we decided to give it a try. Chances are we're gonna have to change out the bearings anyway. Even if they've been done before on that whole factory recall deal, apparently it's still a problem.
And they were done, I did talk to the dealership, but they were done at like 50,000 kilometers. So there's been
A long time
250K put on this engine, I assume with the same bearings, or maybe they were done again by an independent shop, but we don't have service records.
Yeah, and after consulting with Ben at Hack Engineering, he's really recommending we do them anyway, because that fix apparently is not a necessary, for the lifetime of the motor type of thing. And there are other options that are more of a permanent fix that we may end up showing you. So, and after that, we will show you the whole rebuild on the Vano system. So there's lots of maintenance to come on this old girl before she's back in there and ready to rip some drifts. One more point of business, by the way, I should mention, is that we're going to be doing a live Q&A. It's It's a new thing that YouTube is going to be offering. We're kind of like a beta test, you could say. So they're actually going to come to our shop here, and we will do that live Q&A on January 17th in the evening. We're thinking about 8 p.m. our time, 5 p.m. West Coast time. That may change a little bit. We'll give you more details on that in future episodes and updates on our social channels, so Instagram, Facebook. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I think it'll be a pretty...
Mark your calendars.
Yeah, mark your calendars. It'll be a good opportunity. Apparently it's kind of like speed dating. So what will happen is you sign up for it. There'll be a small fee associated with that. We think it's going to be like $5. And there'll be all those speed daters in a digital room with us, and we'll be able to click on each person individually. They'll pop up into like a face-to-face live stream conversation, and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about, whether it's why we're pulling motors out of cars before we go and do anything with them, or what we have planned for paint choices on Conde Celica, why Pete hasn't track tested his 911 yet. I keep poking him on that one.
Never gonna happen.
You can ask us anything
Tech
you want.
questions.
Tech questions. You can even ask me about my wife and kids if you want. I can't promise to give you an honest answer, but feel free to have a 2 or 3 minute speed date with us. So yeah, stay tuned for all that. Lots more information on that. And of course, if you want more information on us, check out our website, speed.academy. We've got lots of technical content there. You can go to our shop, speedacademy.shop, if you want to buy swag, hats, sweatshirts, or even some Go Fast parts. And over on Patreon, you can make a donation to help us pay for all the madness that we've got going on around here.
Or a new camera card.
Camera card.